Welcome, everybody, back to the typing assignment series. Yes, it's been a while, hasn't it? I believe I gave typing assignment 20 back late in November, if I'm not mistaken. So we've had over a month almost to do the assignment, which is on the subject of pet peeves. I have to give credit to Diane Mayer for suggesting this particular topic, which I thought was real interesting because there's a bit of a personal interest, I'm sure, in this. We all have pet peeves or know someone, maybe friend or family, that has a particular pet peeve that might be inspiring for our stories. So it's been a while since we've done a typing assignment series video, and in case you guys are new to it, I'm giving about 30 seconds playback time for each of the results, and I will do a Ken Burns kind of top to bottom scan of it, and then you guys can just pause the video and take your time and read it as slow as you want to during the playback of each one of those, and then I'll discuss after each piece. I'll make a little discussion about it. Okay, let's get into the results for typing assignment 20. Well, our first entry is from Paul Hopper, and he typed this on a Brother Charger 11, and I really like the border around this piece you typed called The Pet Peeve, and of course this is something we can all relate to, right? This is the whole problem of pedestrians not walking the right way, and I love what you say in here. The character says, it's not rocket science. You walk on the same side as you drive, and boy, isn't that true. People don't do that, do they? Well, I can certainly appreciate the frustration of that. And also further down in the piece, you're talking about going to the local Wally Mart and the shoppers with their massive carts and the way the stores are certainly laid out, probably on purpose to get people to loiter further. What is the term? Residence time. To increase their residence time, higher probability of buying something probably. But anyways, I can certainly relate to you in this one. That was a great pet peeve, Paul. Thank you. Our next piece is by a newcomer to the typing assignments, Gary Wan. Welcome. Gary wrote his piece on a Remington Rand Deluxe number 5, and it is very cool. It's about his frustration of driving the 3-lane motorways in England and the problem of overtaking a slow person in the middle lane, and I can definitely relate to this. Now, in the United States, not every state has the same driving laws, and we do a lot of passing in the slow lane that we shouldn't, but I could definitely appreciate your frustration there. And sometimes I think to myself, you know what, we really need are motorways with, let's say, 20 different lanes, and each person gets their own lane. But of course, there's always going to be the 21st person who finds the speed of the lane he's in is too slow and the speed of the lane to his left is too fast. So yeah, getting along with other people in traffic is a problem, and I appreciate your piece. Welcome to the series, Gary. And our next piece is by a newcomer to the series, Susan Jackson. Welcome, Susan. Her piece was written on her Silver Reed 150 tabulator and also was written with the help of Grimble, who is the dragon that lives on her shoulder. And that is the subject of her pet peeve, is this alter ego who is critical and has a very short fuse. And I really love this piece, Susan. I think we all have a little bit of this kind of a Grimble sitting on our shoulder, and I love the way you have learned over the years to deal with your pet dragon and to tame his wilder nature. That was very cool. I really appreciated that. Thank you. Welcome again to the series. Our next entry is by Michael Kitchen, and he wrote it on an Olivetti Lettera 22, and it is called The Haiku. And his pet peeve is about the problem that most people think haikus are, this three-line poem of 5, 7, and 5 syllables, respectively, and his knowledge of the Japanese culture, he's learned that haiku is much more complicated than that. And his pet peeve is around the simplistic nature in which these things are taught. And I can certainly appreciate that. It really helps to learn the deeper nature of things and not gloss things over with superficial concepts. So I really appreciate your piece, Michael. And I also like your Senryu that you used at the last part of your piece. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Michael. Great job. Our next piece is by Eric Tidd, and he wrote his on a 1961 Olivetti Studio 44. I really love this piece, Eric. There's a certain kind of suburban mid-1950s kind of a gothic sense to it. What I really like about this story of Eric's is how he can illustrate how a sense of perfection can be such a negative thing. Perfectionism being a really bad thing, and how it can drive you away from people. And I also like this idea that implies that, you know, in this idea of mid 20th century American suburbia, everybody's home is kind of an isolated island. Everybody's isolated unto themselves. I mean, you have in this story, obviously, the friendly neighbors that immediately come over and greet the newcomer to the neighborhood, but really, she wants to be alone. She wants her own little life. She doesn't want to be bothered with the nosy neighbors, it seems. And I kind of relate to that in the way I grew up in suburbia. Definitely saw some of that desire to be separate and away from the neighbors. I really appreciate this. And a lot of different things going on there, a lot of different levels. So you did really good, Eric. Thank you. Our next piece is brought to us by a newcomer to the series, Jose Morel Ducos, and I really love this piece. He wrote this on a very interesting machine. It's a Sears typograph, and this is a machine that uses a little pen to write each letter, and I think it's very fascinating. It looks really good, but Jose's piece is really fascinating. It's about learning the meaning of the word pet peeve and then discovering that he had these pet peeves over the way English acronyms and other words are pronounced and over the confusion a lot of native speakers have using other words in error, such as affect versus effect. I really like this, and I can definitely relate to it. We all have these little pet peeves that we seem to hang on to, and as pets, as the name implies. So very good. Welcome to this series, and I loved it, Jose. Thank you. Diane Cox's contribution to this series was typed on a mint green Hermes 3000. And this is a very unique piece, Diane. I can definitely see the fascination you have with pet peeves, and your pet peeves are regular and ordered very strictly, one after the other in rows and columns. Although I am curious about what's underneath the upper right corner that's been folded over. Should there be something different under there? Well, we won't know. But for the most part, all of them are nearly identical. Obviously, there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor built into Diane's submission, but it also reminds me that the thing about typewriters that is great is because most typewriters are monospaced machines, there is this regular ordered grid that the letters and symbols are represented in, and therefore there's kind of a graphical element to typewritten text. And of course, we see this presented very clearly in your submission here. So really well done in a lot of different ways. Thank you. And John Monroe's piece was written on a Canon Type Star 6 that is whose call sign is Wedge. So this, I believe, might be the first thermal typewritten entry in this series. So his entry is about his pet peeve of colds, and he does a great job here in describing how when he was younger, him and sickness had kind of a symbiotic relationship at times, because it got him out of not only school occasionally, but it got him out of going on trips sometimes, and it gave him a little bit of solitude at home. But it all caught up to him one day when he was called on it and had to go to school anyways. But I really love this piece, and I can definitely relate to how irritatingly inconvenient sicknesses can be at times. We just don't have any room in our busy lives for sicknesses, but somehow they creep up on us anyways. And, well, I hope you get better, John, very soon. I hope you've gotten better by the time we read this. Thank you, John, for your submission. David Cornelia submitted his piece written on a Hermes Media 3 typewriter, and this is a very timely and very opportunistic entry because for all those people out there who find other people in public using cell phone devices to be a real irritation, David has come up with a great solution to this, and this is an opportunity that all of us could get in on. It's the phone booth. I really loved it. Yeah, and actually it kind of reminded me of Doctor Who, a little bit of Doctor Who in there too. But yes, I was thinking not only a phone booth, but something a little bit more permanent to encapsulate some of the more noisy people who use their phones in public. But anyways, that is very funny. Actually, on a serious level, that's not a bad idea. Somebody should come up with little talking booths that you could use your cell phone in. Anyways, I loved it. Very good. Thank you, David. John Maye's piece was submitted via the Postal Service and arrived to my doorstep about a month ago. And it was very cool because it is typed on the inside of a window style envelope. So we had my address poking through the window there. When I open up the envelope, I find the letter is typed on the inside of the envelope. Very cool. And it's been sitting right in front of my computer, right now by the keyboard all this time. I didn't want to misplace it and risk not having it and forgetting about it for this particular episode. So now I'm finally able to scan this and archive it. But I really like your piece, not only the originality of how you wrote it and mailed it to me, but of course the two pet peeves you're describing here, I can definitely relate to. One being, of course, shopping carts, especially the Costco shopping cart. And yeah, we have Costco down here in New Mexico, and yes, we are part of the United States. That's an inside joke. And what is it with Costco? The shopping carts are extra large. It seems the cars that people drive to Costco are often extra large. That said, I also can definitely relate to your second pet peeve, which is the way people drive and not staying in the slow lane or the right lane unless they have to pass. So I can relate to all those things, and that was very fun. I especially enjoyed the physical format of your letter. Very good, John. Thank you. And finally was the piece that I wrote. A fictitious person named Danny who has this problem of whenever there are cars close behind him that he can see in his rearview mirror, he has problems with that and how he learns to cope with it. No, this is not based on a real life incident in my life. No, it is not. But anyways, I sat down today. I realized as I started to record the introductory clip for this video, I realized, Joe, you haven't done your typing assignment. So I had to stop what I was doing, recording, and sit down and write this. And I first drafted it on an old sheet of yellowed lined notebook paper. And I wrote it crosswise to the lines on 2 pages. And then I realized I had used the last sheet of this old yellowed notebook paper. I was hoping to have this color to it, so instead I had to use some parchment paper. But anyways, that's what I had to do. Well, I really enjoyed everybody's submissions to the typing assignment series. I really enjoyed seeing the newcomers to this series. I will be posting typing assignment 21 in the next week or so, and I'd like to make it so it's not so long of a time between when I issue the assignment and when we actually do it. I almost think that maybe me submitting the assignment late in November and having it due at the end of the year was probably too long of a time. But anyway, drop your thoughts down below. Also, any other further suggestions you might have for future assignments, we'll certainly entertain those and do those. And until next time, of course, stay creative and have yourselves a great day.